Hello everybody, and welcome to the video. I'm going to be going over how to center your projects on the material that you're going to be engraving them on. This has been kind of a hit or miss topic on a couple of the Facebook groups I've been in. Some people having some difficulties getting their pieces centered. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick tutorial on the way I do it using the shapes in Lightburn. This will go on with any software platform that has any of the tools, such as the shapes over here and the alignment tools that often go with it. This can also be used on any kind of software that doesn't have that. You just have to kind of eyeball it and play around with it. So I used this when I originally had my bend box with my universal engraver, which I didn't have any camera or any sort of tool such as this. But it just takes a little bit more time, but it's pretty much the same method that basically went with it, where I would take the laser, I would find out its areas on the edges of the piece that I was engraving, and then I would kind of eyeball and center the items I was engraving onto that. So let's go ahead and start off with just a couple of basic shapes. We're going to go ahead and go with a rectangle and a circle. On my, I apologize, I'm having a beer while I'm doing this because I'm not used to talking this much. Um, on my laser bed, I happen to have a rectangular keychain and a cork coaster. So I'm going to go ahead and put a rectangle and a circle up on my engraving field. Of course, these are not going to be the exact size that I got on there, but that's what we're going to go ahead and start with. Here on Lightburn, which is what I use, these frames I love to put into the T1 and T2 fields, because if you forget to turn them off, like I did when I was attempting this video for the first time and I was blacking out my coaster, if you forget to turn these off, they will not engrave. These are just tool areas that you can use for centering frames such as this. And like I said, if you don't forget to turn them off, you don't have to worry about it. All right, so for the sake of ease, I do have a camera set up on mine, and just to help you visualize, uh, you can go ahead and I'll go ahead and pop up the layer on that. So here we have my keychain right up here, and just below it I have my coaster. You can see that on the laser bed itself when if you don't happen to have it, but it's going to be the same exact method using it either way. I still do this even though I have a camera installed, because with the inclusion of this cutting board, it's going to offset any sort of calibration I did with the camera, unless I decided to save it for each and every individual height adjustment that I make, or if I make my adjustable laser bed, then I won't have to worry about this. But with this, I still go through this even though I have a camera installed. It just gives me a good starting point. So let's go ahead and grab this rectangle. And I'm going to go ahead, like I said, I'm just going to kind of throw it on there. It's not going to be precise. We'll just kind of get an idea. So what we're going to do is I have this rectangle here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to align the top area. Now, it's the first step that I always do, so that way I can make sure that the top that's going to be my reference point. So I'll go ahead and move it to the top of the rectangle, and I'll go ahead and hit the fire button. And even let's go ahead and actually move the rectangle down. So let's say it's not exactly on top of there. We're going to pretend that that camera isn't up there. I'm going to go ahead and move it to the top of the rectangle right there. And as you can see on the camera video, it's going to be centerpiece of what's actually on there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to align my piece with the kind of the top left corner where that laser is going to be sitting. So now you should see the laser sitting right on that top left corner. And now I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side. Now I can either go ahead and move this manually by shifting this, As you can see, the laser last position is going to follow along, or I'm going to go ahead and use the set laser position, and I'll go ahead and move over to the right side of the triangle, or to the rectangle. Looking at the laser piece on the laser bed, you notice that the laser is not showing on any of the material. I'm going to go ahead and hold down this left piece to keep it positioned well, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of twist this, or get this moved. So now I have the laser beam sitting right on the top edge of this piece. So now if I shift back and forth on this, you can kind of see how it's going to ride the top piece of my material. And it looks like, yep, it's sitting right on top. And now we're just going to do that the exact same way with all 4 other sides. We're going to set our right boundary, our left boundary, and our bottom boundary. I'll go ahead, not the texting. I'm doing this ad lib, so bear with me. So now I'm going to go ahead and set that up. Okay. I am well off to the left of the piece that I want to engrave on. Now I can either move the physical piece on the laser bed to the left part of the laser, but the problem with that is now I'm going to have the possibility of losing my top alignment. This is where I'm going to go back and sit down with the software and move it automatically with the software. 2 different methods with this. You can either move the rectangle itself and then recenter the laser on there until you get it just right. Or the way I like to do it, I will manually move the laser until I see it show up on the piece that I am engraving. So that looks like I just hit the edge right there. I'm going to go over and verify, and yes, indeed I did. So now I know that that is my last position on my laser is exactly where I want my left line to be. So I'll go ahead and move that into position, get in a little closer. That way I can make sure it's really on there. And once again, we'll go ahead and we will set this up for the bottom and the right. Bottom one is a little off, so we'll go ahead and get that centered or put right on the bottom. Just did. Like I said, this is with Lightburn. If your software does not have this lower level right here, or the last position known, then you'll be going at it a little bit differently. But it's still mainly setting the rectangle to where it's going to be aligned up with the boundaries of the piece that you're engraving onto. If you don't have this last position, then you're going to be moving the laser, or moving the line, then moving the laser, then moving the line, moving the laser. You can just, it may take a little bit longer, but it's still the same method. Get that rectangle. Why are you guys barking? Hold on a second. I got to figure out why my dogs are barking. Okay, so my boys just ran off to the door. They probably don't know what the hell they're barking at. Do you, Brewski? Do you, Jacoby? Yeah. Okay, you guys stay away from the laser. Stay away from the laser, please. I'm doing a video. Like they understand me. Okay, so back to this. I apologize for the delay on that. So, go ahead, and I got the bottom aligned, and just to make sure, I'm going to go ahead and move it over to that side. Looks good. Now let's go ahead and check the right boundary. I'm going to go ahead and move it to the right boundary and just kind of step it up to where, okay, that way I can make sure I don't go across that hole. Matter of fact, I want to line it up with exactly where it makes its angle. So we'll go ahead and move this down. You can kind of see where it makes the angle on the keychain. I want to go ahead and set that as my right boundary, and that looks close enough. So we're going to go ahead and move my rectangle out to meet up with that last position. And right there. All right, so now I've set the boundary for my keychain. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and update my overlay just so you can kind of see, and we'll get my laser out of the way so you can get a better idea. Move that, update overlay again. And like I said, my camera's a little off because I got the piece raised, but you can see kind of where I have everything at. Now, same thing with the cork coaster down here. Now, I do happen to know the size of this. it has pretty precise measurements, so we're going to go ahead and just set that up 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches, and now I have the size of the coaster. But of course it's going to be out of alignment because of the raised platform that I have it on. So we'll go ahead and do the same exact thing. I'm going to go ahead and move this. My laser needs to be reactivated. Now, if you don't have this, which you should on your Lightburn software, please go take a look at the video. There's a couple of them out there that show you how to do this, how to put this on, and there's also some in the manual that should tell you how to put the fire on. I have an LM2 20-watt Ortor. I have it at 0.5, so that way I can just see it, and I can put a piece of paper under there, and it will never engrave on anything at that, but it's still nice and visible for stuff like this. All right, so looking at that, I am sitting just a little low. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this physically for the top margin, and I'm going to kind of eyeball where I think center would be. Okay. Got that set up, and let's go ahead and take a look at this. The great thing about this is since it is such a symmetrical piece that I am engraving on, if I set up 2 points, then the rest of it should easily be or line up. I am just barely off, so I was just a hair off on that. Let me go ahead. I'm going to move this piece over. I'm just going to move it over 1 millimeter here. Like I said, I got the dimensions, so I don't have to mess with that. So now I got this one set up. I've got the top set up. So now every other point, if I go to the bottom, take a look at that. That's right on the edge. And that's right on the edge. And I can go through a lot of this on this circle here. And as you can see, it hits pretty much the outer edge of every piece of this. Now, let's say you're doing something that is not symmetrical, such as this, then you're going to have to kind of play with it, kind of get a good judgment call on where the edges are going to be or how you want to run it. You can either use the outer edge, if you use live edge pieces, use the bark on the outside or use the inside piece. It's just going to have to, you're just going to have to play with it a little bit on those, since they're not, a good uniform shape all the way around. And do kind of a judgment call on that one, but at least it'll give you a good idea on where your center is going to be. So now that we have our pieces all set up with our shapes and our frames, let's go ahead and import some stuff to do here. I'm going to go ahead and let's make my keychain. Let's, got to close that window down. I'm going to go ahead and bring in a unicorn. I've been wanting to kind of do these. Going to be doing a Saturday market here soon. And get this all lined up here. Now, what I'm going to do here is, since I'm going to be doing multiple items on this, actually, let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and do some text here. My other ride is a, and I'm going to, since I got this nice little rectangle here, let's go ahead and set this at 0. I'm going to set those at layer 0 so I can actually engrave them. Since I have this nice little rectangle here, I can go ahead and fit this where I want inside the rectangle. And that size looks good, but I want to widen it out. I have this. Now I'm going to go ahead and set up the horizontal, or no, the vertical, the y-axis alignment with the rectangle. Now, whenever you're doing any sort of alignment, it is always important to click the last thing that you are wanting to align it to last, so that way it doesn't move that piece, it'll move every other piece that you click beforehand. So we'll go ahead and do the horizontal alignment. And so now that's centered horizontally. And same thing with this. Going to go ahead and center that one horizontally. And now I can kind of mess with the size a little bit more. Hold on, control. It's getting a little too close to the edge. We'll make this a little bit bigger because I got a little bit bigger room. And we'll move this just a hair to the left. Okay, so now that I have two objects in here that I'm going to be engraving, but I want to make sure that that is centered across the vertical axis, I want to go ahead and group these. So let's go ahead and group those together. Now it's going to treat that all as one image. And once again, now that I have that selected, I'm going to go ahead and select the rectangle last and go ahead and set it vertically. Now it's going to be nice and centered within that rectangle. So when I go into engrave it, since we've already set the alignment on the keychain itself, it's going to come out nice and centered. Same thing with this. Let's go ahead and pull in one of my favorite coasters. Projects. Sorry, I gotta find it here. My coasters. There we go. Goonies. I live in the same state that the house is in, and it's one of my favorite movies growing up. So I love doing these coasters. They're very popular in my area. Alright, so once again, I got the nice little circle here framed that will let me know how big or how small to go. Let's go ahead and line that center. We're going to go ahead and do a double tap here. Get that. You know what? That was too easy. I think I did that too easily. So just to show you. Line center, line horizontal. Okay. So now I'm going to get this and I'm going to hold down control and I'm going to set the size that I want. What are you guys trying to kill down there? Get away from the laser. Move. Move. Yes, that's your ball. Go play with it. Jeez. Okay, so back to this. Now that I have this centered, if I don't like it, I can adjust it from there, but at least I know right now that it is centered within that circle. Let's go to the preview. It's going to be about 15.5 minutes. As you can see, I got my two images right there. So I'm going to go ahead and let it do its thing, and we will get back to the finished product. But I'm not going to touch anything afterwards. Once these engravings get on there, they should be really nice and centered. Okay, welcome back. It got done engraving. Like I said, this was the original. Let's go ahead and get rid of these. And let's go do an update overlay. It's a little difficult to see with this image here, but as you can see, everything is centered nicely. And I can probably throw up a picture on that, but I figured I'll go ahead and just use this as the overlay. But get down here on the cork coaster here. Let me turn the other light on so we can see a little bit better. Get that on there. There we go. Now that the laser bed is all nice and well lit up, as you can see, centered nicely onto that coaster. And this one, get in there. And this is all nice and centered right on that keychain. So that's pretty much the method I use in using shapes as frames to set up your boundaries for your laser area, and then just aligning it to that. And so far, that's the simplest and easiest way that I have found, and extremely accurate when it comes to it, because you've seen some of the steps that I go through. So almost guaranteed a nice engraving right on center anytime that you want. Anyway, if you got any questions, go ahead and shoot me a message on here. I rarely check the YouTube, but I'm going to be posting it in the Orter Laser and group on Facebook. And if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot. Let me know there. Thank you very much, and happy engraving, everybody.